March 11, 1945, Kanoya Air Base, Kyushu, Japan. An intelligence officer sits trembling under the dim light of a bare bulb, staring at grainy periscope photographs from submarine I-47. The report before him seems absurd. Concrete vessel observed. No armament visible. Heavy refrigeration equipment. Multiple small craft conducting transfers. His note ends with confusion. Classification: unknown logistics vessel. What the officer had seen near Ulithi Atoll was not a weapon, not a warship, but something no Japanese commander could have imagined: a $1 million floating ice cream factory. At this stage of the war, Japan was starving. Its pilots flew suicide missions fueled by pine root oil, a desperate experiment that consumed 400,000 laborers and 34,000 distillation units, producing only 3,000 barrels of poor-quality fuel. Mechanics drained alcohol from instruments just to keep planes running. Pilots trained on 40 hours of flight time, often fainting from malnutrition. Yet, somewhere out in the vast Pacific, the Americans were making ice cream. 10 gallons every 7 minutes, 5 tons a day, 24 hours a day. The contrast was almost too painful to comprehend. For Japanese command, the discovery was psychologically devastating. Reports trickled in from surviving sailors rescued by American ships after the Battle of Leyte Gulf. Expecting torture or execution, they were instead treated, fed, and even offered ice cream in metal cups. One officer later confessed, "I cried not from gratitude, but because I understood we had already lost. A nation that gives ice cream to its enemies has already won." Vice Admiral Takajiro Nishi, father of the kamikaze program, ordered the report suppressed. His young pilots could not know the truth, that their enemy was not only better armed, but more comfortable. By 1945, the Americans had built something beyond Japan's comprehension. Ulithi Atoll, once a dot on maps, now transformed into the largest naval base in history. 722 ships filled its lagoon, more vessels than Japan's entire navy at its height. Here, sailors watched Hollywood films, played baseball on the beaches of Mogmog Island, and lined up for ice cream. The barge served admirals and seamen alike. Democracy through dairy, comfort through industry. While Japanese pilots wrote death poems and ate rice balls before one-way missions, American sailors chose between vanilla, chocolate, and strawberry. When the carrier USS Randolph was struck by a kamikaze and repaired within 3 weeks, its crew consumed 3,000 gallons of ice cream from base facilities. To Japanese intelligence, such priorities seemed impossible. Intercepted U.S. supply manifests listed ice cream mix and chocolate syrup. Surely these were code words for ammunition or fuel. But no, the Americans really were shipping dessert to the front lines of a world war. Even high above the clouds, the difference continued. 29 bomber crews reportedly mixed powdered milk, cocoa, and sugar in ammunition cans, using sub-zero air at 30,000 feet to freeze it into ice cream mid-flight. While Japanese mechanics burned hydraulic oil for fuel, their enemies made dessert at altitude. It wasn't arrogance. It was confidence, industrial, cultural, and psychological. Admiral Chester Nimitz understood it perfectly. In a memo he wrote, "A sailor who knows his country can provide ice cream in combat fights with a different confidence than one expecting only hardship." The numbers told the story of two civilizations. In 1945, the U.S. military produced 80 million gallons of ice cream a year. Every battleship, cruiser, and carrier had machines on board. The Navy's barge at Ulithi cost over $1 million, the equivalent of more than 17 million today. Japan, meanwhile, rationed rice to 315 grams per sailor, when supplies existed at all. Pilots flew on diluted alcohol fuel that cut performance by nearly a third. Their entire pine root oil program produced less energy than the U.S. Navy burned in a single day. When the war ended, the symbolism came full circle. During the American occupation, ice cream became one of the first comforts shared with Japanese civilians. Children who had grown up hungry and terrified tasted for the first time, cold, sweet, and utterly foreign. Lieutenant Saburo Sakai, Japan's top surviving ace, later wrote, "We fought believing suffering made us strong. They fought with the confidence of abundance. We thought comfort was weakness. They knew it was power." Today, at the Kanoya Air Base Museum in Kagoshima Prefecture, visitors can see the contrast displayed side by side. A kamikaze pilot's final meal, a rice ball, pickled vegetables, and a small cup of sake, sits next to a photograph of the American ice cream barge at Ulithi. The curator explains, "When young people see this, they finally understand how we lost. We fought with spirit. They fought with industry." The ice cream ships were more than curiosities. They were symbols of a new kind of warfare, the war of abundance. Japan believed power came from endurance, sacrifice, and spiritual will. America showed that true power lay in eliminating suffering, in keeping men well-fed, comfortable, and confident even at the edge of hell. The ice cream barge was proof that the United States had already won the war before it began, because it fought not only to survive, but to preserve normal life amid chaos. In the end, Japan brought spirit to a contest of supply. They brought hunger to a battle of plenty. While Japanese pilots wrote death poems under lantern light, American sailors complained about running out of chocolate syrup. While Japan measured victory in sacrifice, America measured in output, including 10 gallons of ice cream every 7 minutes. The ice cream ships weren't just about dessert. They were about what victory really means, the ability to live well, even in war. A nation that could bring sweetness to the apocalypse had already proven its dominance. And in that quiet truth, in the churning mixers of a concrete barge at Ulithi, lay the ultimate symbol of America's power. Not the